Growing up thinking that probably wouldn't become a parent because I'm gay, there was no positive representation of lesbians. There was a tiny bit of gay men, but they were kind of a joke.
Yeah.
You were kind of allowed to be an effeminate gay man that was desexualised on the television. But part of me was like, I guess this is all I deserve. I guess I deserve this sort of version of love, because the idea of being out was unthinkable.
You use the words ashamed and embarrassed.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was well into my 30s before I really got rid of the shame I felt around being gay. Yeah, because I didn't know anyone. Oh, don't say no. Yeah. Never say no to anything.
We just don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah, and also, like, what about if it goes away? What about if the word goes away?
They'll never ask again.
They'll never ask again. And then you'll, have to turn to the bottle, and then all of a sudden you're in a pub and it's 12 o'clock, and your marriage has fallen apart. I mean, look, I catastrophise, sure.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. Today's guest I am so excited about. She is a stand-up comedian who I actually saw many, many, many years ago at a Copperfield event that used to happen called Festival. Yes. And I used to literally sit in the comedy room that was there and just absorb everyone that was coming in. I just used to absolutely love it. And I saw today's guest and fell in love with her. And it's been incredible to see her career just move in the way that it has. You are everywhere. And I absolutely love it. I love it. She also has many a podcast, including Big Kick Energy and Out. She's a Virgin Radio host. She also is mum to one little girl. Yeah. She's also a best-selling author, a Sunday Times best-selling author, no less, with her book, Am I Having Fun Now? Anxiety, Applause, and Life's Big Questions. Today's guest is Suzi Ruffell.
Oh, I mean, that was too much. I mean, it was lovely. It was really nice, but it feels. I feel quite overwhelmed. That's very nice.
I actually hate doing intros, and I hate being introduced.
Okay, it's very nice.
Yes.
To be like, oh yeah, that's lovely. But I think it's funny when someone lists all of your achievements, because I think we're so sort of. Well, I am so sort of programmed to be like, I'm just sort of getting by, and I guess I'm doing okay. Or yeah, am I a piece of shit? Like I don't, I feel like so much of my life is me going, I'm doing okay. I think I'm doing okay. I'm not doing okay. I think I'm doing okay. And then when someone reads all the things out, you go, do you know what? It's all right.
But even if you look at what you're doing now and what's, you've just...
I'm on your podcast. I'm absolutely over the moon. I'm delighted to be here. The first time I saw you was when I watched that video that Tom put up of the song at your wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember being like, imagine someone loving you that much. So, I mean, it's been a long journey for me to get to meet you as well. I've been following you for a long time. I've been double tapping the posts. Finally, the friendship starts.
There was a point when I was on tour in Brighton where I thought maybe we would go for a sea dip. It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. I then was in like Lincoln on tour.
Yeah.
We just did the swap.
Yeah, we did. I was keeping Brighton warm for you.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
But you are so busy at the moment, and you've just written your first book, which I read on holiday, and I've got to say, I didn't speak to my family for a day because I was just...
You're welcome.
Your book. But it's amazing, I think, to get to feel a certain way about a topic, which is obviously you, but your anxiety and life and how you've navigated that, and to get it down onto paper. It's a huge thing.
Yeah, it felt quite overwhelming. Oh God, I've said overwhelming like 7 times in about 4 minutes. I'm so sorry, listeners.
Swap the word out.
Yeah, just swap it out. Come on, guys.
It's when the kids after school, I can say, how was it? Good. Good is banned.
Yeah.
Any other word than good. Okay.
Yours the same. I can't get any information out of my daughter after school. I don't know whether she's going to school or Bletchley Park. At this point, I don't know if she's trained to be a spy. I just cannot get any information. But yes, it feels. I thought to I pitched this book idea, and look, I'll be honest with you. I pitched it a couple of years beforehand, and I got down the road a certain way with a publisher, and then they ghosted me. And I mean, like, totally ghosted me and my agent. And so I was like, of course I don't deserve a book. Why would you deserve a book? You silly girl. Get back on stage and be a jester. And then it was just after the pandemic, and things had picked up a bit, but slowed down a bit. And there were a few different things going on, but nothing sort of concrete. I was being penciled a lot. the book, a publisher then came to me and said, "Do you have anything?" And I sent the thing that I had written for the previous publisher, and I was like, "I've got this," but I said to my agent, I was like, I'm not going to put any more work into it because I don't think I'll get a book deal, so I'm not going to spend loads of time doing it, which is obviously kind of like that thing that you do as a teenager where you go, I'm not going to revise because then I haven't tried if I fail, and it's easier to fail if you've not tried. Mm-hmm. And then they came back and were like, yeah, great, write this book, which was lovely. And then I wrote all about my anxiety and how it feels and the sort of minutiae of being sort of quite obsessive with it and quite controlling and how my life needs to look, and was sort of quite happy with it. And then as I was writing it, I hadn't really considered the people were going to read it, which I know sounds ridiculous, but I got into sort of a state of flow. Like the way I tried to write it was I would sit down, and rather than trying to write a chapter or a word count, I would try to write like a thing about how something made me feel. So something about school, I had this story, how did it make me feel? And then once I'd got to the sort of emotional end of that bit, I was done. And so I was writing like really freely. And then my publisher would come back to me and be like, this is really honest. Are you really happy to share this? And it's great. And it's really good. And I think there's not a problem with you sharing it. But, just be aware that people will want to constantly talk to you about anxiety. Yeah. And lots of people might say that you might have other neurodiversity or other mental health things going on. So, just be aware. But it was sort of nice to sort of release myself of it. But now it's in the world, it does feel sort of terrifying. You were one of the first people that I sent a book to. You got one of the proofs, which was like, this is fine. This is totally fine. But now it's out in the world and people seem to be responding really well to it and enjoying it.
But I think writing non-fiction in that unfiltered way is the only way that it works. You can't, obviously there are always going to be areas that you're like, well, maybe I won't pop that in.
Yeah.
But I think the only way to really get the most out of the experience of writing it, and therefore the reader reading it, is to just kind of go, and here it is.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I have read those books where you can tell that it's guarded.
Yeah.
And you sort of feel, not shortchanged because no one owes you anything, but especially when you really love someone's work and you go, oh, I think that you've given me sort of a slightly sterilised version of what this experience was for you. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. And so, I spoke. I wanted to sort of have a deep dive into what it's like sort of living with anxiety and quite acute anxiety as a child and as a young person. And then to talk about sort of my experiences as a queer person and homophobia. And then, we're on Happy Mum, Happy Baby all the way through to becoming a mum and how and the journey to that and the journey as a queer person to sort of realising that was even an option for me. And I wanted to share those things because a lot of my audience are, the majority of the people that read the book will probably be straight. I've got a massive, my audience is quite straight. There's obviously lots of queer people as well, but because I do quite mainstream telly bits. And so I really wanted to share those bits that people might not be totally across or might have an understanding of, but not as deep as I wanted to share. So it was nice to be able to get all those different things in.
I also think timing is everything. So if you had got that book deal 2 years before, it would have been a different book.
Totally. And I wouldn't have probably been ready.
Yeah.
And I would have maybe not shared it in a way that I should have. I mean, but everything's timing, don't you think? Everything is timing. I've always been so, what's the word? What's it when you're bad at waiting for something? Impatient. Jesus.
I feel like I should for that word.
Yeah. I don't know when this is going out, but I feel like I should tell the listeners. I watched the Lionesses win the Euros like 2 days ago, and I only got back last night. And so I'm sorry if my brain is, I'm not drunk. I'm just a little tired. I feel it's really important. I say I'm not drunk. It is like 11. But I was always so impatient to be a success. I was so desperate to be successful. And I think that, that's for a number of things, but I was so desperate to get to the finish line and to get the opportunities. And then, in the fullness of time, you go, oh, well, I'm really pleased I didn't get that opportunity. I'm really pleased I didn't get live at the Apollo when I first wanted to get live at the Apollo, because I don't think I was good enough.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had the nerve either, whether the material was right. I wasn't sort of strong enough in my gut to be able to get it done. But have you found that? Because you've moved into acting now and
acting's where I started.
Well, yeah, but then did you have a break when you had the children?
Yes, I did. And that's when, so I was, so basically the acting world didn't want me for a while. So I started writing.
That's why I started doing stand-up.
We all found our paths.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, whilst they were younger, I was writing.
Yeah.
And now it's going back to, the acting world has gone, come on then.
Great. Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Okay.
It's totally that. Would you ever go back to acting?
Oh, yeah. Like, if it was... I love stand-up. I really love stand-up. And stand-up is amazing with being a mum.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of in charge to a degree. I choose what I want to do. I choose when I want to gig. I'm really lucky that my agent is a mum as well and totally gets it. So when I'm on tour, I don't do more than 3 shows a week.
Yeah. Well, you're touring this year and next.
Yeah. So
and it's called The Juggle.
It's called The Juggle.
And you're literally juggling as you juggle.
Everything. Yeah, everything. And I don't actually juggle in the show.
But you should learn.
I know I should. I've not got time to juggling. I've just not got time. But so I don't do more than 3 shows a week. So I can, and then obviously I do podcasts and different little things and bits and bobs and writing. But because I need to be home for she's only little. She only just finished the first year of school, so we're still dealing with all of that, and my wife works as well. So it's sort of a good job, weirdly, for a parent.
Yeah.
But I had like a real realization. So she's a pandemic baby, and so when she was tiny, we were all at home, and it was all very. And I wasn't working because I couldn't work. So it was like, I guess I'm this kind of person. And I'd never really spent so much time at home.
Yeah.
I'd always been on the move and I'm lucky that I've travelled a lot for my job, which is great fun. And sort of mid-pandemic, I'm like making a banana bread, doing some Lego, doing a night feed, doing all those things. And then all of a sudden the pandemic, we could work again. And then what I tried to do is I tried to go back to that sort of raw ambition that I spoke about before. I was like, right, I'm going to do 6 shows a week and 2 podcasts and maybe try and write an article every 3 weeks. And I totally broke.
Yeah. And what's hard in that situation is that you've signed yourself up for stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard then to rewrite it.
Yeah, totally. And it sort of took my body kind of breaking for me to realise I can't do all of this.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I have lots of friends that are stand-ups. And I will say, not majority of my friends that are male that are stand-ups, but a lot of the parents that are my friends that are stand-ups are dads. And I would look at them and go, but you seem to be doing everything. And I'm not saying that they're less involved or anything like that, but there was a need that I had to be at home.
Yeah.
But I found it impossible to be away from her for too long. I just couldn't hack it. I couldn't cope. I found it too hard. I was invited to go to the Montreal Comedy Festival, which is it's sort of the only festival that's by invitation only.
Right.
So you sort of have to audition to go and be taken. And you get flown there and it all feels very zhuzhy and they put you up in a hotel and you do these showcases, which is lovely. It's a real privilege to be asked to do it. And let me tell you, I've been knocking on that door for some time. And the door was very firmly closed. And
they double locked it.
Yeah, they double locked it and then put the chain across. Just a woman with an eye hole going, no, not you. And then post Panny D, that they were like, yeah, go on then, she can come. And sort of finally got to go there. And then when I was there, I did my shows and the shows all went really well. But then I slipped a disc and ended up sort of on the floor of a hotel room crying, watching videos of my daughter. Oh. And it was like my body had gone, you can't do all of the things.
Yeah.
You can't do all of this. You can't be, getting up at 7 but getting in at 1 from a show. Mm-hmm. Or getting up at 6.
Yep.
And then being in the park all day. And, it was just impossible. And so it was almost like my body went, no, you can't do it all this. You're going to have to make a decision because this is too much.
Yeah. Which must be really hard when you're in the midst of something that you actually were really looking forward to doing.
Yeah, and it was sort of my identity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When you become a parent, I felt like it wasn't that I didn't know who I was, because I have my partner and she's amazing, and we were both very keen to become mums. And I think growing up thinking that I probably wouldn't become a parent because I'm gay, and which I think to some listeners might sound surprising now, maybe some younger listeners it might, but when I was growing up there was no positive representation of lesbians. There was a tiny bit of gay men, but they were kind of a joke.
Yeah.
It was kind of a sort of you were kind of allowed to be an effeminate gay man that was desexualized on the television.
Yeah.
In the 90s and the early 2000s. And the only frame of reference I had was Claire Balding. I mean, I remember watching her and thinking, well, I can't be a lesbian because I don't like horse racing. I mean, like those two things were linked. But there was just no, and there were queer people having families, and there were people that were mums. I remember reading something about like Sandy Toksvig getting terrible, people sending her awful letters when she became a mum. And so I sort of thought, oh, well, I guess I don't get this.
Yeah.
And I would say that was there at the start of when I went to drama school and when I was sort of first wanted a job in the industry, for want of a better word. And I think that for a while my career was like, well, I'm not going to have a kid because I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it would happen for me. I guess in some respects I didn't even know if I'd be able to, if I deserved a partner in a way, like because of the anxiety. Well, and how that
in the book you talk about how the idea of not being able to be a mum if you came out almost played a part in you sort of accepting your sexuality.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I had a boyfriend for a while when I already was very sure that I was gay. I got into drama school and then thought, well, I can't be a lesbian and be an actress. Because in my mind, well, I just thought those two things couldn't be. But in my mind, it was because I was aware of Pushta Rossi.
Right.
Coming out, so she was in Ally McBeal, which I loved. She used to occasionally get offered Lucy Liu. Ideal for 14-year-old me. I mean, absolutely thrilled to bits with that. And then she came out, and then I just remember seeing lots of articles in like Inquirer magazine? Those like really trashy American magazines. It was like, oh, she'll never work again because she's gay. Because no one will believe that she's straight. And so I just remember thinking, well, I can't come out. I guess I'll just never come out. And so then I met a really nice guy, a really lovely man who was really nice. And I thought, I suppose this is like a version of love.
Yeah.
It's not the love that I think some of my friends have got. Mm-hmm. But I think if I'm really honest, and I don't feel like there's any more, it's important to say, but part of me was like, I guess this is all I deserve. I guess I deserve this sort of version of love because the idea of being out was unthinkable.
You use the words ashamed and embarrassed.
Yeah, totally. I was totally ashamed of, and I mean, that shame I was well into my 30s before I really got rid of the shame I felt around being gay. Yeah, because I didn't know anyone. I grew up in Portsmouth, which I think now has like quite a thriving queer community. But when I lived there, I mean, in that way that slightly dramatic children might be, so I'm like, God, I can't imagine anyone in this town being like me. This town couldn't possibly keep hold of me. Like, I need to be in London or New York. And of course, Portsmouth is actually perfectly lovely. Perfectly lovely might be a bit strong, but it is nice enough. But it felt, I just felt like I couldn't come out. I felt like I couldn't come out. It felt like I thought I would disappoint everyone in my life. I thought that I was worried that it would mean that I would have a really lonely life. Mm. And I think as someone that's like a bit of a people pleaser and someone that loves being around people, I thought, I can't have that. I can't be that. I can't be that thing.
At what point did that start to change?
It was probably, I'd had like quite a few girlfriends. Legend. No, I'd had a few girlfriends. I'd had a few.
You're still in football mode, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, if the Lionesses had been around, I would have been absolutely fine coming out. But there was just no one. I just didn't know there was anyone like me, which sounds insane. I know, but I say in the book, you know, I was the first lesbian I met. You know, it's when people get, you know, angry online about LGBT rights and say, you know, oh, there'll be, you know, kids will see these books about gay people and they'll become gay. And you go, well, I didn't know. I didn't know it was a thing. I thought I was really weird. I never read any book. I was the first lesbian I met. And, you know, I think it's really important to highlight that when people are getting very worried that, you know, if their child reads a book about gay penguins, their child's going to be gay. It's like, well, no, either your child will go, oh, I guess I'm a gay penguin, or go, oh, I'm a straight person, but I respect that gay penguin. You know, that's, and, you know, both is fine. But I think it was probably when I met my wife Alice. Yeah. There were a couple of girlfriends beforehand that I had really nice relationships with, and you know, and sometimes and you know, despite having my heart really broken by one of them, there was a period of sort of a really nice relationship there as well. And I think, yeah, I became okay with it, but it was sort of when I met Alice that I really engaged with, like, using the word lesbian. For a long time, I hated the word lesbian.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it sounds, well, first of all, I think it was something that was occasionally, like, whispered about me at school when I would, like, have a kick about, or, you know, I think I've got, you know, I think to some of the other girls, I sort of read as gay from quite early. And then I sort of had this realisation that I was like, oh, I think that I didn't have any friends because I was so scared of people knowing who I was that I would, like, walk around at lunchtime and be like, I'm just going to go and stand over there. Or I'd go in the drama department and have my lunch with Mr. Griffiths because I was like, he can't judge me. He's a teacher.
Also, your anxiety started from such a young age, and it was death related.
Yes, yeah, that's how it started. Yeah.
So to carry that through, and to have the anxiety attach itself to all sorts of things, must have been really.
Yeah, I mean, I think I only really thought about it in writing the book, because I think when you live with something, and also, you know, I was brought up in one of those families where, and I don't think this is a bad thing, by the way, but where my parents would be like, we're all right, everyone's all right, like, you know, oh, look at, you know, oh, that woman, she lost her husband, and that man, oh, you know, and so my family would be like, we're all right. Yeah. And so I think I've always come from the place of being like, oh, yeah, I guess my mental health was quite bad when I was a kid, but, you know, I'm also alive and I'm fine, and we didn't, you know, it wasn't like we had to eat gravel or anything like that. You know, we were fine. And so I never really allowed myself the time to go, oh, that was quite hard.
Yeah.
And I think it was only when I had therapy when people were like, oh, that must have been really hard. And you then start crying and go, oh, yeah, it was actually. I don't know what this is about, but yeah,
but it's
really
amazing
weeping.
how freeing that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just having someone else say that to you. It's like,
Yeah, that's horrible. And you go, oh, yeah, it was. Thank you for witnessing that.
Yeah.
It's really, it just allows you to breathe, doesn't it? It gives you like a moment to think about it. And so it wasn't until, you know, much later when I'd sort of sat down with a therapist and really sort of committed to doing therapy that I was like, oh, yeah, I think I really hated that I was gay, and I really hated myself, and then that really fed the anxiety. And that's why I became quite ambitious, why I wanted to go to drama school, why I wanted to be an actress, partly so I could be someone else.
Yeah.
And the other reason was so that I was really worried that my parents would be ashamed of my gayness.
Really?
And so because of that, I wanted to give them something to be proud of.
Right.
I know now that they don't feel like that.
Yeah.
But
I love the way you write the book about your nan.
Yeah, my nan was great. Yeah, my nan was the last person to tell, which was, I was very, very close to my nan. I talk about my nan a bit in the book. She was great. And everyone in the family knew that I was gay except for Nan. And my mum had been really worried about telling her. But it's interesting, and you find this with stand-up. Quite often people will be very worried about offending sort of the oldest person in the room. But actually, old people are quite unshockable. They've sort of seen lots
Seen it
of
all.
things. They might not like sort of gratuitous swearing, but actually themes and things. You know, I used to have quite a involved routine about a smear test, which ended with this noise. And and I remember seeing like quite a group of quite not just old but quite elderly women at a show, and I remember thinking, oh, am I going to do that? Because like it's you know it's a bit you know it's very it's not sort of sexualized, but that, you know, that you are sort of talking about something that some people might go, we shouldn't be talking about that.
Yeah.
And they all fell about laughing and loved it. And so that, you know, I found often that people that are from sort of older generations, in some ways, can be sort of more understanding of differences because they've seen a lot of stuff.
Of life.
Yeah, and they've witnessed lots of changes.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I'm not saying that every old person's like this, don't get me wrong, but my nan was definitely in that camp where she'd seen a lot. You know, she was around during the Second World War. She'd, you know, worked in a factory for a lot of her life. She'd seen all kinds of people. She was, you know, we weren't like a moneyed family, so she'd always sort of spent lots of time with, you know, working in different places, getting to know different kinds of people. And so, yeah, I think that when she was finally told by my auntie, who said, by the way, Suzi's gay, that's why that's my mum, Anne's being so weird at the moment. And my nan, I rang my nan and I said, I heard Auntie Jackie's told you something. And she said, yeah, I love you just as much as I did yesterday. Don't worry about it. And that was it. And then it was like, oh, do you want to come round for a roast on Tuesday after? You know, it was so, it didn't bother her. And then weirdly, when that happened, my mum really chilled out about it. And I don't think it was ever that my mum was actually, I interviewed my mum for the audiobook. There's a bonus bit of the audiobook where I interview people from my life, and it's some stand-ups that are my really good friends, and then my mum. And it was actually not until I interviewed her that I said, were you ashamed when I first came out? Because I'd always assumed there was a bit of shame. And she went, oh no, I was never ashamed. And I said, really? And it really, and I mean, it's all on the audio. And I was like, oh, that's really nice to know. And she said, I just thought, oh, she's going to have such a hard life. Her life's going to be so much harder because of this. And I think that was that was her being a mum and her only having, you know, my mum's never left Portsmouth for more than a holiday.
Yeah.
And, you know, she goes about with the people that she went about with at school, and there was nothing wrong with that at all. That's not what I'm saying. But she hadn't known people that were like me. She hadn't known people that were massively different. She'd been a wife and a mum for a really long time, and her life was maybe a bit. Does insular sound like a insult? Because I really don't want it to.
No, I think I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think she just really. She got into sort of the protective mum mode of going, your life's going to be harder. And I think she was probably aware that it meant maybe I wouldn't come back to Portsmouth. Maybe it meant I wouldn't have children.
Did you feel relieved with the family knowing?
Yes, I did. Yeah, once I decided I was going to do it, I just needed to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt very relieved.
So after all of that, having thought to yourself, maybe one day I won't be able to be a mum. At what point did that start changing and you see having children in your future?
I think probably when it became... So I was sort of aware that gay people were having kids. You know, I knew some guys that had used a surrogate. I knew people that had adopted. I knew people that had done IVF or IUI. And it was something that was sort of, maybe that will happen for me. But then it was actually when my friend Jen Brister and her wife had twins. And I know Jen really well, and I went down to Brighton to see them and to hold the babies. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you've done this. And we can do it. And not we, I wasn't suggesting like they bring in a third. You've had 2 kids, do you want a third? 5? No? Okay. And then it was, then I became aware of the fact that it was a possibility. And then yeah, and it was when we first started talking about it. It was quite early on in mine and Alice's relationship.
Talk to me about meeting Alice, because it's that thing where you said that you always found yourself being set up.
Yes. I've been set up a bit, and I'd always been, and I'd had sort of quite a lot of, I don't know, I think I'd kept choosing the same kind of wrong person for me. And then I met Alice, and she was very, very different. We were set up at a wedding. Mainly because the bride was like, "You're both lesbians, this will work," and we were both like, "How insulting! Would you like to have dinner on Tuesday?" So we very quickly sort of became, well, we didn't sort of leave each other alone at the wedding, and became sort of very. And then I said, "Oh, I'll add you on Facebook," and then DM'd her, slid into her DMs, and we went, and then she slid into her DMs because we're lesbians, and then we went out for dinner, and we quite quickly I remember saying, like, I'd recently had my heart broken, and it was, and I mean, I sort of talk about that in Technicolor in the book. I'd really had my heart broken, and it was really really hard, but sort of useful is a really weird word, but I think sort of quite, I think when you're really worried, something that for a lot of that relationship, I thought, she's going to dump me, because I always felt like I was punching above my weight. Yeah. And I thought, she's going to dump me. And then when she did, there was an element of relief to it. Like, oh, I don't have to think about that anymore. That's, well, my heart's really broken, but it's happened. The worst has happened. So I just deal with that. But yeah, really quickly, Alice and I sort of slid into this sort of nice, quite chilled out, very kind relationship where we always really looked out for each other, and we were very kind to each other. There was actually one night that we were at, one of my best friends is Josh Widdicombe. We'd gone around to his house, and there were loads of stand-ups there, and we're all having drinks and having loads of fun. And, you know, we all kind of take the piss out of each other all of the time. Yeah. And we're always sort of slightly digging each other and, you know, whatever. And I did a slight sort of dig to Alice, and I immediately was like, oh, that didn't go well. Just by her face. Everyone laughed. Yeah.
Alice did not laugh.
Alice sort of chuckled in a way that let me know that there was going to be a conversation about it later. Okay. And I don't even remember what I said. And then on the way home, she said to me, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be that couple that take shots at each other in front of people. We're just not.
And that's also good to know as a stand-up, right? Because your life is often your material.
Yeah, for sure.
So to know what's out of bounds.
Yeah, well, that, I mean, that's now the case with my stand-up. You know, I sort of check everything with Alice. Alice read the book more than anyone else to sort of know how much of our life she was willing to share. Because that's the thing I've got to think about now, especially when I'm talking about my home life and my family and being a mum and our girl. You know, I need to be careful because, you know, I don't want to talk too much about her because, well, first of all, that's her life and it's her story. Mm-hmm. This is my daughter, I mean. And secondly, I don't know whether she's going to be a show-off like me or someone that's quite private like Alice. Yeah. And so I think I'll err on the side of caution.
Like Witch Osborne.
Yeah, exactly.
Kelly or Amy, you know?
Exactly that. Why Kelly Osborne?
No.
I mean, sure.
Possibly.
Okay, sure. But it's, yeah, and so we met. I've already talked around I've already gone around the block with this answer, and I can't quite remember what the question is.
We were talking about how you met, and you were about to say how you talked about children fairly early on.
Thank you. Sorry.
It's all right. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Okay. I told you it would go. I mean, I don't know if it's obvious to the listeners, but I do have ADHD. So I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry about it.
No.
I was at one point, but if you're listening to this going, oh, Jesus, this woman really needs to stay on topic, imagine what it's like living in my brain. It's absolutely terrible. Think of my poor wife. So it was, and it really quickly, I remember saying to her, because of the previous relationship, part of the sort of beginning of the undoing of that relationship was that I knew I was kind of ready for a family. Once I'd seen my friends doing it, once I knew it was a possibility, and I hadn't made any decision about how I wanted to become a mum, but I knew that I thought, I want to be a mum, and she didn't. And then so when I went on a date with Alice, it was kind of date 1 or 2 that I was like, so I want to have a kid, like not now, like in like 4 or 5 years time, But I feel like I should be really frank about that because I don't want to date someone for a couple of years and then us to find out that we're not seeing the same future. Which I think is quite important. It's something that I've noticed that some of my friends haven't done.
It's funny. I wonder if that's a fear of instant rejection before you've even kind of...
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah, and also like lesbians, we move fast.
Really?
Oh, honestly. Honestly. Like, you know, there's like a gag that's like, you know, what does a lesbian take on a second date? Like a moving in van. Like lesbians move really quickly. And we did, like we moved pretty quickly. And she moved in within 6 months. We were married within 2 years. We had a kid within 4. We had a kid 4.
But also after heartbreak.
Yeah.
You know, if you meet someone who shows such kindness and actually you get to see that, what it's like to have someone else help you fill your cup rather than deplete it so much and just take.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to wait.
No, you're like, this is great.
That. Yeah.
Let's lock this down. Lock it down! But it was, I sort of knew really quickly.
After your initial chat with Alice about wanting to start, about wanting children in the future, how long did you leave it before you actually started looking more into it?
A couple of years.
Really?
Yeah, we dated we were together. I say dated, that makes it sound like it was way more casual than it was. It was like, let's move in and let's be together for our lives until one of us dies. No pressure. And a couple of years, 2.5 years maybe.
How did it feel when you knew you were finally on that path?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing, but it was quite scary. Like, is this going to work? Is it going to go the way that we want it to? We then became sort of desperate to become mums.
It's funny that, isn't it? How as soon as you kind of go, yeah, we're going down that route, that desperation quickly meets you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And goes, and then as an anxious person and someone that is, you know, overthinking, you say all the things that can go wrong. And, oh, what about if this happens? What about if that happens? And so that was exciting. And I mean, it's a wonderful thing if you're lucky enough to be doing it with a partner that really gets you. Because you go, oh, this is just us.
Yeah.
This is like, I know that this might not be the case for everyone, but I've found it's been such a wonderful thing for our relationship.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are times when it's harder. Yeah. I mean, our relationship is much harder now that we have a child, of course. Everything's harder. But I love watching her become a mum. I loved that. I loved being sort of present and being the witness of them forming a relationship and how I fitted into it. And it felt really, sort of just really special, kind of magical that it was us. We're doing this.
Yeah.
This is our life. This is our girl.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that there's an extra weight on it because I think as we were growing up, we both didn't think that it was possible for us to be mums. We both didn't know that was going to be part of our future. We had both kind of resigned to the fact that if we were to be mums, we would have to do it in a relationship that wasn't authentically really what we wanted.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I remember when she was really little and us being we moved down to Brighton because we're cliches. And also because we wanted her to go to a school where that we're very used to families like us.
Yeah.
And I remember being our first night in our house. We I don't think I've told this story before. The first night in our house, we had we'd never had stairs. Like we'd both grown up in houses, but since we'd lived in London, we'd both never had stairs. Yeah. I'd lived in London for about 18 years. Alice had been in London for maybe like 15. And our first night in our house, the three of us, my daughter was maybe like 3 by this point, the three of us sat on the stairs because we'd never had stairs and had a bottle of champagne and a fish and chips from down the road. Champagne and fish and chips is that would be my death row meal. And I remember just looking at them and being like, oh my God.
We're here.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah. I got it. I got the girl, I got the child, I got to be me. Yeah. I got to sort of not live this life of fear. Like, you know, when I think of the 14-year-old me, it was sort of drenched in shame. It was impossible to me that anyone would ever, you know, love all my flaws and, you know, love me with my anxiety, and that my mum and dad would be fine with my gayness and my queerness, or however you want to say it. And that you know, that I get to be someone's mama.
Yeah.
It felt, like, and I think that's part of the reason that it's continued to be. I mean, I need to be very clear. There are days when I'm really not loving it, because I'm just a person. But I think that there's always in the back of my mind, you know, this might not have been.
Does that add a layer of trying to make everything perfect or not? It
did. It definitely did. Now I have to relinquish that, because no one's happy. Mm-hmm. No one's happy when I try and make my magical days. And Alice had to actually say that to me. She was like, stop trying to make it magical. Like, it would just be or it won't be.
Yeah. How have you managed your anxiety through becoming a mum and motherhood?
I kind of didn't at the beginning.
Really?
I mean, and that's why I had that sort of, when I slipped the disc in Canada and had, my body was pretty broken, and so was my brain at that point. Yeah, I had to stop. I don't know. Yeah, the word burnt out is sort of thrown around. I don't know if it was that. Maybe it was, probably, could have been. But whatever it was, there was no more.
Yeah.
There was no more. It had to stop. And that was because I was trying to be like a really perfect mum. I was trying to be really brilliant. I was trying to stimulate her and do all the things and do the singing class and da-da-da, and, you know, never raise my voice and it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard, you know, and then there's the guilt. Because you go, oh, but this is all you wanted, and now you're not finding it easy. You meant to find it easy. You really wanted this. You used to lay awake as a teenager going, oh, I guess I won't be a mum because I'm gay. And now you've got it, and you've got the child, and you've got the wife, and you've got the really loving home life, and now you're not enjoying it, and then you beat yourself up, and it's 3 a.m, and you're going, why can't I? Why am I finding this hard? And I think I'm really close to my mum, and she's amazing. My mum's one of those people that was born to be a mum. Yeah. Being a mum has always been enough for her. And that's a lovely thing. That's not me knocking that. That is a really lovely thing. And she was so present when we were kids, and she was really good at playing. Even now, she's amazing at playing with my daughter. She will play for hours in like a little dream world. She's just really great with kids. And I think that there was I had to sort of go, I'm loving this. I love this so much. But also, I really love my job, and I really love my career, and I really love being someone alongside being your mum. And then that was a really difficult thing to. Not that anyone else was judging me for it. If anything, all of my friends most of my friends, I would say, feel similarly.
Yeah.
But there was certainly a point where I was like, why isn't this enough for me? Am I defected somehow because I sort of need the rush that I was used to from my old life?
Yeah.
And now it's just been about making that about making sure that when I'm home, and which is the majority of the time, let me be honest, but, you know, being really present. Yeah. I've had to sort of divorce my phone.
Yeah.
You know, I would be lying if I didn't say there were times when I was, you know, was doing something with her and had half an eye on my phone.
Yeah.
And then it was Alice. Alice was like, when you're here, can you be here? Which was, you know, sort of honest.
Yeah.
But right. And so it's about, you know, and also social media is not good for your mental health. It's not. I mean,
breaking news.
Right. You heard it here first. More on this as we get it. But it's really, really bad. And you know, it's so easy to become aware of what everyone else is doing, feeling like, am I good enough? The sort of, what is it? The comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes.
You know, all those things. It's really, you know, it's impossible not to feel. I think it's very hard to come off social media and go, well, that made me feel great. You know, whether it's like...
It doesn't matter how many videos of golden retrievers you get.
Yeah, exactly.
You're sad you've not got one.
Yeah, yeah. Or, you know, I'm absolutely obsessed with someone going, we bought this 17th century schoolhouse in Tennessee and we are doing it up by ourselves. And that, I mean, that is just crack to me. I'm like, take up the floorboards, there's tiles underneath. I just absolutely love that shit. But even with that, you know, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, here's some horror.
Yeah.
And then like a comment, women aren't funny. I hate women. You know, and then like, oh, I hate the Lionesses. Football's terrible. The women's football's terrible. You know, oh God, okay. Yeah, you know, and gay people should die. You're like, oh God, why have I come on this? And then you go, oh, I better post a funny video again. I'm on tour. It's so, and so I've had to sort of, that's the thing I think with how I've sort of not allowed myself to fall into like the mum guilt, which I think that's a lie. I do sometimes fall into the mum guilt, but the way that I really try not to is that, you know, when I'm at home, when I'm doing bedtime, which is usually 3 or 4 nights a week, I'm really into it. You know, we're doing stuff together. But it's like you said with tour as well. You've got those boundaries in place now.
Mm-hmm. You've found, and I guess all of us will continue to find ways that actually work.
Yeah.
Rather than us just saying yes and trying to do everything and then feeling awful for it.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's so hard not to say yes. And I don't. Is this a female thing? Maybe. But there was certainly part of me, and I think you might feel the same because, as you say, you didn't work to begin with as an actress, where there is always part of me that goes, thank you so much, thank you for my life, thank you for that, thank you for asking me. And then, you know, and it's okay to say no, that doesn't work for me or it doesn't work for my family, or maybe I just won't enjoy that. You know, I've sort of had to do that with, you know, there's certain shows or different things where you go, oh, I don't think I'd have a good time on that. And I don't think I'm the right person for it. And I think there's probably another comedian that would be better. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to step to the side.
Nice.
But, you know, but there's an amount of confidence that it takes to do that because you go, oh, don't say no. Yeah. Never say no to anything.
Well, you just don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah. And also, like, what about it goes away? What about if the word goes away?
They'll never ask again.
They'll never ask again. And then you'll, you know, have to turn to the bottle, and then all of a sudden you're in a pub and it's 12 o'clock and, you know, your marriage has fallen apart. I mean, look, I catastrophise, sure, but it's...
But that is something that you've done from a very young age, the catastrophising, your anxiety and stuff like that. So in motherhood, where there are risks around every corner...
Oh, when they're little.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, when they're little.
How have you managed to kind of... is there just a level of awareness that you know that you will catastrophise, or are you just allowing yourself to kind of go, I know that this is happening?
Yes, I think there is. I think I just sort of go. I mean, you know, when you go in and you check that they're breathing.
Yeah.
And you get to the door and go, did I check? I'll go back. Check they're breathing. That was. Yeah, she's definitely. Yeah.
Tom just stands at the door. I'm like, that's not enough. Then I go in and just probably nuzzle their cheeks. Literally, I lift their cheek with my nose. Still now.
Do you go in on all fours like a dog? Are you like the wolf one in the Jungle Book?
I am a little bit like that, and then I give them a big old smooch, and then I leave. I'm like, they're definitely warm, definitely breathing.
Does that wake them up?
No. A couple of times, my middle one sort of sat up. What's going on? And then I've gone, sleep, child.
Then you do a song.
Yeah.
I have to stop myself.
Yeah.
Because it is when you catastrophize and when you're like, I need to check that, and it's the same with, you know, when I was a child, I would sort of try and outrun a bus in order to sort of stop my parents dying, which I thought was very unique to me. Since writing the book, I found out that's actually quite a common thing for kids to sort of, because you've got no idea how to control the world. But so I was quite obsessive in how I in how I sort of tried to manage my anxiety. And now with her, as much as I might want to go in and check that she's breathing, or, you know, quite often I listen to sort of quite horrific podcasts because I don't know why.
Torturing yourself.
Yeah, like ghosts and murderers and all the things I'm scared of. And then I'll get home from a tour show and be like, oh, I probably should make sure they're both not murdered. So I have to go, oh, yep, fine. And but I sort of know that when you let that valve out, it's really hard to get it back on. Yeah. So I sort of just have to go, no, it's fine. I refuse to go down that road. I refuse to. And it's lovely that I've got like a really, really vivid imagination, but sometimes that's really unhelpful.
Yeah.
So the catastrophizing happens, but I refuse to reassure myself.
Did you have to do the same thing when your daughter started school? Because I know for you, school wasn't the happiest of places.
No.
You talked about your dyslexia before. It's a very hard thing to know that your little person, the person that you love more than anything, is going into that environment and to tell yourself, but it will be different.
Yes. So I think she was really ready for school. She really wanted to go to school, which was great. And I just really want it to be different for her.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I don't really know how I'll cope if she hates school, because I'll really know how that feels. What I hope to do is sort of make sure that she's got hobbies and things outside of school, which is what I have, which is my real saving grace. But yeah, I think I'm less worried now, because it's, primary school's kind of fine, and her one's lovely. But I think I'll be really worried about secondary school. Your eldest must be.
It's about to start. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like he's ready to meet more people that might be like him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's a music lover, not really into sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for him to meet other children who love what he loves.
Yeah.
And see what that feels like. For him to join sort of the school band.
Oh,
things like
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
So it's hard in terms of I won't be able to be on top of things in the same way that you can when they're at primary.
Yeah.
I won't know when something's happening.
Want you to be either, which I really remember that when I was having trouble at school. I was like, Mum and Dad cannot find out about this.
Yeah, absolutely. But even now, he'll talk to Tom about some stuff, and then I'll kind of go in with a little bit of a leading question like a week later, and he'll be like, no. He won't tell me the things I know that he's told Tom. It'll be like a blatant lie or an omission of what's an actual situation.
How do you cope with that?
I think the most important thing is that he talked to someone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
I'm not the right person at that point, and
He
that's
needs
all
Dad.
right. Yeah. And that's, but yeah, it's quite bizarre to know that's just going to increase. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like we've got friends that probably won't have children, and they'll be like, I'll be the person that she comes to when she's 15 and she's sick of you.
And that's the thing, right? You can tell yourself, no, I want that. I want to be that person. No. But you can never be that person.
No, you've got to, I love the idea, I do. I feel like I'm friends with my mum now, but I was really into adulthood when that happened.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of being friends with her one day, or the idea that she would want to hang out with me. But I'm also very aware that there will be a time when she needs other grown-ups that are... that will just listen to her and really hear her. And I think I guess that's something that comes back to sort of my sort of queerness in a way of when we have spoken about as a community. I'm using the royal we as all gay people, but when you talk about sort of your chosen family, and that's something that I've really sort of, I look at my daughter and Tom Allen, who's sort of one of my best friends, and has become, and we worked together loads, and we became friends. Oh my God, maybe like 12, 15 years ago. And so we've been in each other's lives for a long time. And it's really lovely to sort of go, well, that's Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
It's always going to be Uncle Tom. And you're going to be closer to him. She's close to my brother, but there'll be other people in the family that she's not as close to. And so it's Tom Tom. It's always going to be Tom Tom.
Yeah.
And Tom will say to me, like, oh, I can't wait until she's old enough for me to take her out to the theatre. Like, great, she'll love that. Like, that's just lovely that she'll have those other people in her life that, as you say, fill her up.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've learned in being, as you learn a bit more every day, don't you? But to begin with, I really wanted to be, the fun mum and this mum and that mum. And you sort of have to, a time comes where you have to sort of relinquish everything and go, well, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to have to accept that you prefer that person for that, and that you're always more excited to do that with Nanny, and that's okay. And you're going to, I'm like the fun one, so right. I'm dancing in the kitchen. It's all that sort of thing, and then if anything goes wrong, she wants Mummy, which is Alice.
Right.
She'll be like, I cannot trust you for this big thing. If she's not well, all she wants is Alice. If she's fallen over and hurt herself, all she wants is Alice. The other day she called me big fella.
Wow.
She was like, "All right, big fella." I was like, "Where has this come from?" I think someone says it to Sully in Monsters Inc. Like, "Okay, big fella," and now I'm big fella, which I don't love. And she, but you know, you have to sort of go, "Oh, okay, I have to be okay with that. That I'm not the person for everything," and kind of nor should I be.
Yeah. If you were going to write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to, and what would you say?
Oh, probably to my daughter. Mm-hmm. And it will be... I try to get things right, but I imagine sometimes I got things wrong, but I hope that you always felt really, really loved and really wanted. And I feel really lucky to be your mum.
I love that. And we end the podcast with you completing 3 sentences.
Yes.
The first one is being a mum means...
Being a mum means it happened. It happened for me.
Since having a child,
Since having a child, I understand what tired is.
And I'm happy when?
I am happy when we're sitting on the beach and having an ice cream. And she shares hers with me. And I share mine with her.
That's gorgeous. Suzi, thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I could have stayed here all day. So nice.
It's so good. I love it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.